How would you describe high standards? What kind of standards do you expect of yourself and of your spouse in your marriage? I want you to think about your children's school and what do you expect? What kind of standards do you expect there? What do you expect them to teach? Respect, facts of our history, logic, how to work with others? What kind of standards do you expect, when you go out and you buy a refrigerator? The refrigerators used to last, I don't know, 25, 30 years, and now they would last about 10 years. The standards have been lowered. A coffee maker. We just had to go out and buy another one this week. The old one looked pretty good. The little light still came on, but it wouldn't make coffee anymore. How about clothing? I know one year I bought jackets for myself and all my daughter-in-laws. I think it was from China. Sorry, China. But I bought jackets and they were so cute. I saw them online. I bought 4 of them, one for myself and one for my 3 daughter-in-laws. And when they came in, the sizes were inconsistent. Smalls, actually, a medium was the size of like a 10-year-old kid. So all the sizes weren't even the same. They had no standards upon their sizing. I had a bathing suit just the other day. I had to toss it. It was beautiful. It still had bright colors. It looked perfect. But guess what? Standards have been lowered a long time on this, and the elastic was like dry rotted. The bathing suit wasn't that old. It just dry rotted. I got a Klondike bar the other day. When I think about a Klondike bar, I think about that smooth, rich vanilla ice cream in the middle, that big, fat, chunky chocolate on the outside of that Klondike bar. And I bought some Klondike bars, and guess what? There was probably like half as much chocolate. The Klondike bar itself had shrunk. We live in an era where standards have been lowered. I mean, how low can they go? Our food sources may just disappear. Luckily, they can't make an apple smaller, right? Apples are going to come out whatever size. But, in society, if we can lower our standards, like if people can lower them, they keep lowering them. And soon there's nothing left. Let's think about things that were meant for good. Did I say that this was going to be a serious podcast? I'm Connie Durham of The Extraordinary Marriage. And I believe that as people, we have lowered our standards. And at some point, we don't even know what high standards are anymore. Generation after generation lowers their standards a little more and a little more and a little more. I mean, where's that going to put us in even 20 or 30 years? Things that were meant for good, like unions, which were meant to protect the workers and give them some kind of rights, in their place of work, like as in, I think I have a great grandfather who was hit in the head with a board at a sawmill and he died. Unions were meant to protect people, but now they're money makers and they control people and they tell them what to do. The news. I remember whenever I was even a kid, things were in black and white. I was a kid and the news, the man who did it was like so respectful. He was so professional. He was dressed professional. He talked professionally. He had a high standard. So it was meant to keep us informed, right? So what's happened to the news now? Now the news people give their opinion. They bring fear to people by telling them things over and over, causing people who don't think for themselves to be afraid. They divide people by color, by religion, by opinions of how things are supposed to be run. There's a song that says, "United we stand, divided we fall." Can you hear that? United we stand, divided we fall. That goes for our country. That goes for families. That goes for marriages. United, you stand, but divided, you will fall. And how can you get past that? How can you keep that from happening? I had one more: Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts were created to help young men, little guys, help young men grow up to be strong minded, strong bodied, help them be able to meet the needs of life. And then those two were lowered. The standards were lowered. There's another song. Yes, I'm a singer. And it's called "It's a Slow Fade." Sometimes it's such a slow fade that it happens little by little by little, and the good people do nothing because they're busy, they're working, they have families, and they just keep going. Well, we could at least put a Band-Aid on it, right? And hope that it gets better. Put a Band-Aid on it and hope it gets better. Like, think about an open wound and you don't put any medicine on it and it gets infected. So sometimes even a Band-Aid doesn't help. Think about a skin tightener. Yeah, I'm at that age. Women use skin tighteners. Now, I believe in skin care. I was a sales director with Mary Kay for over 20 years. Skin care, taking care of what you've got. But people like to go and use a skin tightener, probably because they didn't take care of what they had in the first place. They lowered their standards and didn't think about what they needed at the time until their skin was all wrinkled. Well, skin tighteners, what happens when that tightener gives way or wears off? Well, everything sags again. How about when you get a sunburn? You've got a red sunburn, you were out on the boat, you were skiing, you were having a good time, and you didn't apply sunscreen. You didn't think about what you needed, and now you're burnt. And I've seen, kids with blisters because of that. Blisters. Well, you can put on some cooling gel, and that's going to help you for a little bit. It's like a Band-Aid, but guess what? If you keep doing that, keep doing the same things, eventually you're going to have skin cancer from not taking care of your skin. Think about a water pipe that busts. We just had bought a new trailer about a month and a half ago. Travel camper, I'm not supposed to call it a trailer. It's a travel camper. And we were so excited to get electricity into it, and we turned it on. And as we turned it on, all the lights came on and we're thrilled. We popped the side of the camper out. It was so cool. And then we plugged up the water because we haven't tested that yet. So we plugged up the water. Guess what happened when we plugged up the water? Pipes started spurting water everywhere. The toilet was spurting. The pipes under the sink were spurting. And my husband quickly turned it off. And little by little, he had to fix them. But what if he just put some duct tape on them? The heat of the summer and the cold of the winter would eventually cause that duct tape to leak again. But he had high standards. And he worked on that, and he fixed those himself. Well, so what are standards? What are standards? And what sets standards? When it comes to couples, it's we live, whatever our parents did, that's our standard, right? Our parents, our grandparents, that's our standard. Whatever our family has lived by, that's our standard. But thousands of years ago, several thousands of years ago, the standard was that people believed in God. People believed in God. And if, absolutely right or absolute wrong, yes, the Holy Bible has, this is the only preaching I'm doing, the Holy Bible has absolute right and absolute wrong. When there's no clear direction, what are people supposed to do? There's no clear direction. And we live in a world at this time where it's not even gray anymore. It's just gone dark. It's not even gray. There's no in between. It's just all gone dark. So if you don't believe in something, you will fall for anything. And that's what's happening these days. If you don't believe in something, you'll fall for anything. I believe in family. I believe in marriage. I believe in truth. I believe in good people. So there is no higher power. This is what people believe these days. No higher power, just me. I believe it's all about me. What do you have for me? My husband talks about a radio station that is, let's see, what's in it for me? Let's see if I can remember the little letters. What's in it? WIIFN. What's in it for me? And this is where people are at. That's their standard. What you got? What's in it for me? Well, no standard means you're falling fast. You're falling fast. People want to feel good. They want to feel happy. It's like, yeah, I feel happy when I eat ice cream, but yeah, it stays with me a little bit. We feel happy when we go out and do things that we shouldn't, but sometimes there's repercussions from that. I'm not going to go so much into that, but I will say this. It all starts from the top. Well, just like I talked about a minute ago about believing in God, believing in high standards, and that is my high standard. It all starts at the top. The country starts falling apart. The law of the can't even say it. The law of the land can't be trusted. And when there are no standards, alcohol and drugs take over. Couples cheat on each other. People cheat on each other in business. The boss tells the employees they're going to pay them for such and such, maybe a bonus, and then they don't pay them. There's a lot that starts going on. Sex trafficking and porn are rampant when there's no standards. Married couples bicker. Children feel unloved. And families fall apart. So what do? How do we reverse this? How do we raise our standards? Well, you know what happens? A little by little, and one person and another person and another. And it takes day after day of changing our habits, of thinking about ourselves and not thinking about others. Understand also that we won't all do it the same way. We won't all do it the same way. Because guess what? People think differently. That's what I teach is communication styles, and people do things differently. Sometimes we think if people aren't doing it my way, they're doing it wrong. Well, that's not true. We all do things in different ways. Now, some people have more common sense than others, and the way they choose to do something is excellent. And somebody else may go a backward, roundabout way and do it, but maybe they achieve the same thing. It just takes them a little longer to do it, right? Well, here's just a few things I would say as we finish up this. Number one, you want to raise your standards high. Number one, love your spouse more than yourself. Yeah, I know. You may have a spouse who's really not so great to you because he's not loving you in the same way. But you know what? Everything starts with us. Everything starts with us. So love your spouse more than yourself. 2, that means give praise and appreciation rather than criticism. Give praise and appreciation rather than criticism. I want to stop right here and I want you to think, what do you criticize? In what way do you criticize your spouse? I know the first thing you're thinking of is, oh, I could tell you what they criticize me on. But what way do you criticize your spouse? Is it how they eat? Is it you feel like they don't help you ever? Is it you criticize the way they clean up the kitchen? Maybe you criticize the way they, I don't know, the way they do everything. Now you could think about how do they criticize you? And how does that make you feel? I don't know about you, but criticism tears down. It tears people down. It doesn't build bridges. It takes bridges down. So we want to learn to be appreciative Give praise and give appreciation rather than criticism. And the third one is pay attention to what your spouse needs most from you. So this is just 3 things. Pay attention to what your spouse needs most from you. Have you looked at the love languages? Do you try to raise that standard? And, maybe their love language is not your love language. But if they'll pay attention to your love language and you'll pay attention to theirs, then you can come together. This means being attentive, being giving, being truthful, helpful to each other, and respectful. I happen to believe that many of the words that have been created in the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years could be replaced with one big, giant word that takes care of everything. And it's called respectful. Respect the differences of you and your spouse. You're different. That's what I teach in Communication Secrets for Marriage, is that you are different. And that means that you have different strengths, different abilities. And if you'll tap into those instead of beating each other up, you just might be able to have a great life. But respect means respecting people that are different than you. Everybody doesn't have to do things the same as I do. Even as I say I believe in God, well, if somebody doesn't believe in God, I respect their right not to believe in God. I respect people's right to be different than I am, but I just want them to respect my right to have high standards. I think there's a story, and I can't remember exactly what it is. It is about, I don't remember if it's ants or something, and they're trying to climb out of a pot. Don't quote me on this, but it's the idea that counts. It's like ants. They're trying to climb out of the pot. I'm not sure if it's ants. Can't remember. But instead of forming a chain and helping each other get out, it might be ants that do help each other. Now I'm going to have to research that. Nevertheless, something was trying to climb out of a pot. And instead of helping each other by pulling each other up or creating a chain ladder and others could crawl over or help each other, they pulled each other down because nobody wanted anybody to get out of the pot. If I ain't getting out of the pot, you ain't getting out of the pot. That was the idea of that. And so we want to raise our standards. And what does that mean? Ultimately, treating your spouse the way you want to be treated. That goes for everybody. Treat everybody around you the way you want to be treated. Treat your children the way you want to be treated. Treat the person at the supermarket the way you want to be treated. Treat the cashier where they just made a mistake on your order the way you would like to be treated. Treat your spouse the way you want to be treated. Sometimes when we think about high standards, we have to stop and think, what would that be? Maybe we have low standards. We don't even know what that means. Raise your standards. Think about it. Say a prayer. You might need it. Lord, let the change begin with me. Let's raise our standards high. So if you like this, if this speaks to you, be sure and subscribe to the Extraordinary Marriage Podcast. If you like this, please rate the show or like the YouTube video so that more people can see this. If you like this and you want to work with me, my name is Connie Durham, and my business is the Extraordinary Marriage Podcast. I'm a personal relationship coach, so I do that one-on-one. I can do it in groups. I can do it in small groups, like family groups on using Zoom, so it doesn't even matter where you live. I have a course, and it is called the Communication Secrets for Marriage, and it teaches the concept of how we are all different. You will begin to understand yourself, and then you'll understand your spouse, and then you'll understand your kids. And then you'll understand the people at work. Then you'll understand your father-in-law and Aunt Susie. It opens up everything. It's like it turns a light on. Communication secrets for marriage. It is all about people, how we act, our top emotions, why we react the way we do, why certain things are important to us and other things are not. Communication secrets for marriage. Or contact me, Connie at theextraordinarymarriage.com. Thank you for listening today. Be sure and like or subscribe.